Let's take a listen to what we heard on Friday, testimony from a former security guard regarding an alleged terror incident involving Young Thug.
Once the driver said what he said and the passenger, what if anything happens next?
It was foolish, and I tried to tell the driver that I'm not in or on his property. He called me a peon and said I can't do anything. I don't have any power. It's a long time ago. I just remember the word peon specifically. And then somebody was still talking in the car, but they were getting ready to leave. So I could see the rear passenger on the passenger side. I was standing out from that car door, which was still open. And I was trying to encourage them to go ahead and leave because that's what they were going to do. And he looked at me and said that he was going to come back up here and shoot me in the face.
He said he would come back and shoot you in the face?
Yes.
All right. What, if anything, did you do at that point when he said, I'll come back up and shoot you in the face?
I took a step back and I requested them that he respond.
And now this is the second response from Douglas that you canceled the first one?
Yes.
All right. What happened with the individuals in the car?
At that point, they left. They closed the door and they left.
What happens next?
Nobody responded to the streetscape area, which is where we told them where we were.
And once done with the police arrived, do you recall which officer arrived?
Officer Stevens.
Okay. And what happened once Officer Stevens arrived?
He started gathering statements from the security officers that were on scene as well as from myself. We walked from that point, and once he got the statements, then we walked back to Champs.
Why did you all walk back to Champs?
Officer Stevens has said that it's possible to identify the individuals because they may have used a credit card to make the purchase over there.
Okay. And did you go back to Champs?
We did.
What happened once you went back to Champs?
So Reggie, I don't know his last name. We were friends for a long time. We coordinated shoe releases and stuff. He's the manager of Champs. But when we went in to go ask him, he told me that he's a known rapper by the name of Young Thug.
And when he told you that he's known rapper by the name of Young Thug, what did you do with that information?
I Googled it.
Okay. And when you Googled it, what did you find?
I looked at the image and identified that it was the same individual who threatened me and had earlier told me.
So the person that you saw that Young Thug was the person who said, you were leaving and I will come back up here and shoot you in the face.
Yes.
All right. Did there ever come a time, well, let me ask you this. So after you learned that information, what happened next? After you Googled who it was, what if anything happened after that?
I typed my statement for them with him.
All right, so you were just listening to testimony from Christopher May. He's a security guard, and he was involved in a 2015 incident where Thug was actually arrested. And it's involving indictment 51, the number 51. There are multiple charges in this indictment, and I just want to read it for our viewers. Defendant Jeffrey Williams is accused here of an act of terroristic threat when Christopher May, a security officer, while in the performance of his duties, attempted to inform Williams that he was no longer welcome at the mall. So let's talk about that. Let's break it down a little bit, David. So you know there are all of these allegations in the indictment, all of these overt acts. And this one, number 51, involving our Jeffrey Williams, Young Thug, is now being called a terrorist act. The fact that he told Christopher May, the security guard, I'm going to shoot you in the face. And apparently Christopher May was trying to get him out of the mall. So do you think this is a terrorist act? Why do you think it's been framed that way? I wanted to read it just so we could understand. That's the claim here, that this is a terrorist act.
Yeah, I mean, it affects a jury when you say something's a terrorist act, especially nowadays with what's going on in the world. That's a powerful phrase. One of the advantages for prosecutors when you have a RICO case like this is that you can bring in the entire narrative. You can bring in stuff that you otherwise wouldn't bring in a regular case because you have to show there is a criminal enterprise and all these folks are working towards the same aim. And that gives you a lot more leeway to bring in evidence that can be very powerful in front of a jury that otherwise would be excluded in another case.
Exactly. And Rena, we've been hearing about all of these other acts. So far, they have not all been connected. I think one of the criticisms of the prosecution is, you know, it is early on, but one of the criticisms has been there haven't been any instances where it's all connected, that these acts are for the furtherance of that criminal enterprise. How do you expect the prosecution is going to tie all of these individual acts together?
Yeah, I mean, one of the difficulties from the prosecutor's perspective of tying it all together is to prove that the gang that they're alleging is the criminal enterprise is in fact tied together, and that each of these acts, the overt acts and the conspiracy, are tied together in furtherance of that gang. And so we'll be hearing, I imagine, over this trial, various sort of disparate moments in time that they will seek to put together at the end of the summation to show you that there was a time period during which everybody that they allege to be in this criminal enterprise was connected and working together in furtherance of a common goal.
Exactly.
At first, they may seem quite disparate. They may seem quite not unconnected, but by the end, I expect that the prosecutor will attempt to do that, to put them together.
Exactly. They're going to have to show somehow Young Thug was involved. He was directing it. They had communications. Maybe they'll have phone calls, but we'll see. Let's take a listen now to the cross-examination of this same security guard.
Now, can you tell if the door to the driver's side is open? If you can figure that out, if you don't mind help. And if you can't, just say, I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay. Do you see yourself in that video? And your shadow? You don't see yourself?
I don't see myself. I can't differentiate myself from that frame you have there.
How about the person above the passenger headlight and on the sidewalk with the shadow being cast? If you can't tell, it's fine.
I can't tell.
Okay. At the time of the supposed threat, and I believe it is, let me get the quote. According to you, I believe that the threat is, I will come back here. I will come back up here and shoot you in the face. Remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And that threat, according to you, was made while you were standing by the passenger side rear area. Is that fair to say?
You saw me standing earlier that we pointed out.
Can we go back to that area? If you stop it there, is that helpful?
Yes.
Okay. Is that the area that the supposed threat, is that kind of like the circumstances?
The area, yes.
And you have at least 2, if not 3 coworkers around you?
I can see 2. I don't know where the third one was.
Do you realize that none of your coworkers say that Jeffrey made that threat?
Objection.
What's that?
Okay, you know what? I'm overrule the objection.
No, I spoke with Officer Lewis. I'm sorry, not Lewis. Sorry, Stevens.
That's Police Officer Stevens, who works with the Dunwoody Police Department, right?
That's correct.
He comes out after the after the Jaguar is no longer on the scene. Right?
That's correct.
And you called them.
Yes.
You were just listening to Brian Steele. He is cross-examining Christopher May, the security guard, who said that Young Thug threatened him. One of the things I was going to ask you, David, I love the way Brian Steele just phrased that question. He said, quote, "You realize that none of your coworkers identified Jeffrey Williams." Now, he did get an objection. The judge overruled it. But my point is, the way he phrased it, he didn't have a hearsay problem, correct?
Oh, excellent. Good point. Yes. But also, that's a masterful lawyer, because he asked a question where the witness can only answer yes or no. You don't want that witness to start explaining and going on a diatribe. That's why on cross-examination, you don't ask a question generally you don't know the answer to. So he knew the answer to that question in advance. He wanted that specific answer, a one-word answer, and that's what he got.
Exactly. And the judge was like, well, overruled. He did get the objection, but he overruled it, and that was a good point.
Right.
I mean, listening to that cross-examination, Rena, what else do you think Steele might be trying to demonstrate? I mean, I think one of the places he might go here is, you know, look, do you know it was Jeffrey Williams? I mean, was the lighting correct? We were just trying to see what the picture depicted anyway, because it was difficult to see.
Yeah, you know, it occurs to me as we're thinking about this with the previous questions about the way that this trial is being put in. And, you know, in a racketeering case, it is important for the jury to learn of the evidence in a way that makes sense to them. It's such a long trial of any kind. It's very hard from a prosecutor's perspective to put on evidence in a way that is jumbled. So you want to make sure they're telling a story. And if they are attempting to show that Young Thug is at the top of this gang, they're early on showing that he is committing a violent act. And I think that this cross is aimed at blowing up that possibility early on, to say it may not even be him. And if he's not in this act, which the prosecution seems to think they have him on video, then the rest of it starts to crumble.
Yeah, it reminds me actually of the R. Kelly trial when they put all of those dots together and they were showing, and that was a RICO case, that he was at the top of that. I think they're going to, at some point, have to do the same thing here.